Welcome to our monthly online Community Connects event. I'm Sadija A. Smiley. I'm the founder and CEO of Stillborn and Infant Loss Support. This is a monthly event. You can find us once a month here on Zoom and join us for some community connection, a little bit of education, some awareness, and definitely communication and chatting. Really quickly, SAILS' mission is to provide a platform of community mentorship, education, and advocacy for families that have been impacted by the loss of their baby before their first birthday. We do have our board member and host and presenter tonight, Dr. Laurena White, joining us there. So definitely want to acknowledge her. Again, the purpose of our monthly gathering is to be able to connect. You guys asked for a way to speak back and see faces and talk live. And so this is our opportunity to do that once a month. We are selling our 2022 calendar. So if you did not know, we have an annual awareness calendar that comes out, and it features families that have experienced the loss of their baby before their first birthday. They have an opportunity to share their story, as well as any photos of their family or their baby. So I will put the link in the chat. If you have not ordered it, you definitely want to grab your copy. It goes from January 2022 through February of 2023. So there's 14 families featured. There's some educational materials in there, some tips on how to share loss with any other children that you have that may be going on this journey with you, as well as some tips of how to communicate with others that may have experienced loss if you have not. I'm going to show you guys really quickly a little sneak peek of what it looks like. All of the proceeds from our calendar go towards our Angel Ivy Burial and Cremation Fund. And that's a financial assistance program that we have to help families ease the financial burden if they decide to have a funeral or a cremation or burial services, any way that they desire to lay their baby to rest. Because as we know, unfortunately, you can't insure an unborn child. And so most families often, don't have those finances. And so we just got them printed. We had some delays in the printing and the COVID cut down the paper supply. The designer who worked with us got sick, but we pressed through. And so we were able to finally get them printed. They went out in the mail yesterday. So if you already ordered a calendar, keep an eye out in your email for your tracking number and information. But here's a sneak peek. There's a family featured each month, and this is families across the US and Africa. We have a family here that's in South Africa, actually. Because the calendar was delayed, we added 2 additional months on there to kind of help, hopefully, thank you for your wait, because folks were waiting for this calendar for a while. And then we have some tips on how to help your child if they're, you're trying to help a sibling process through that, as well as the memory wall for all of the families that are represented in the calendar. So you can go to our website. I dropped the link in there. They're $24.99. That includes your shipping and your handling throughout the US. We also have some volunteer opportunities available. So I will drop our volunteer application also in the chat. You were asked if you were interested in volunteering when you registered. So if you said yes or maybe, someone will follow up with you sometime this week or next. And I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenter so we can jump right into tonight's discussion. So introducing Dr. Laurena White. Again, she is one of our board members here. She has over 20 years of experience and service in the field of women's health, ranging from birth doula to obstetrics and gynecology, infertility, acupuncture, and Chinese herbal medicine. She works with a carefully designed team formed to deliver expert care to women experiencing complex health challenges such as uterine fibroids, PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, and hormonal imbalances. She's also the clinical director of the Eudaimonia Center. So I want to introduce to you all, to some and reintroduce to others, Dr. Laurena White. Tonight's topic is caring for your body after loss.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing up. So yeah, we're just going to start talking about caring for your body after loss. A lot of times when we think about stillborn and infant loss, we think about the mental health component, which is a huge component in terms of grief and addressing grief, recovering from grief, and going through that entire process. And even as you traverse through the grief process, you may be thinking about and considering trying again, or how to prepare your body for trying to conceive again and for your next pregnancy. And so I like to talk about how you could care for your body after loss, whether you are preparing for another pregnancy or not. So a lot of times we think because you have, depending on when you experience the loss, we go through a physical recovery time. And that's going to vary for each woman depending on the timing of her loss, what type of loss it was, and exactly where she was in her pregnancy. And so when we think about recovery time, we're thinking about anywhere between, 6 weeks all the way up to, and unfortunately, through due date. And so the longer and further along you were in your pregnancy, the longer it's going to take to recover, because the body is still going through an amazing amount of physical changes, hormonal changes that don't just short circuit and stop after the loss. They continue going as if the loss has not occurred. And sometimes that can be very difficult, especially with the mental health component, when your body is doing things that it are constant reminders of the loss. So there may be some symptoms like bleeding. There may be some other things like milk production. There may be still back aches and just a slew of different bodily functions that are continuing to go on that one needs to address. And a big thing is also infection prevention. Whether you had a surgical procedure or a natural procedure, there is a risk of infection. So you want to make sure that you're constantly keeping your pelvic area and your lower abdominal area and your vaginal area clean, dry, and constantly making sure that any open wounds, any scars, any areas that may had surgical intervention are clean. Another thing that we like to look at is just trying to figure out what areas of our body may or may not be out of balance or may need extra attention as you prepare for to conceive again, or if you are just trying to achieve optimal health and wellness after the loss. So sometimes it's important to look at your uterine health, looking at your cervical health, any potential pelvic infections that may have precipitated the loss, any health risks that you are potentially susceptible to or that you may be at risk for, and any other conditions that may have been out of balance prior to pregnancy that may have contributed to the loss or may not. Conditions such as high blood pressure, diabetes management, any other infections that may have not been adequately addressed, any chronic conditions that may have been out of balance or not properly managed prior to your pregnancy. And a lot of times we think that everything is going to snap back, even once you go back to work and all your habits have completely kind of gone back to normal. That grieving process and that recovery process is still a process. And there's going to be a lot of time for adjustment and expectation management about what you can do. It could be that you can't go back to your physical routine right away. There may be some parts that you're still struggling with physically and not being able to do because of the time that between the lapse and the loss and where you are now. So really just preparing your body for not just the physical aspects of work and household duties, but also potentially preparing yourself for that time where you're ready to have sex again. And sometimes that's not even easy because it's a constant reminder mentally of previous attempts. And it also could just be a time to readjust and reacquaint yourself with your partner. So really readjusting and your expectation management for what this time can be and will be, and what you can do will be important. And so now is the time physically to really adjust and enjoy this time. Start taking your prenatal vitamins again. Whether or not you're trying to conceive, your prenatal vitamins provide a lot of essential nutrients that will help you get healthy again, help you feel better again, help your blood supply, which again is going to help reinvigorate you, get your color back, And also focusing on your hydration and your nutrition, replenishing your body with the fluids that have been lost, and also continuing to eat well, figuring out what foods work well for you, what foods not so much, and really being and taking a concerted effort into using and putting those foods in your body so that you can not only regain your strength, but you can prepare yourself for optimal health, wellness, and healing. Also, activity and exercise. Sometimes going back to your previous routine, which may have been high intensity interval training or running or jogging or weightlifting or something rather intense, it's not going to be the thing that you're ready for in the moment. You want to maybe take up a yoga class, some really intense stretching, Pilates, something that's going to address your core, something that's going to not be so intense, but also is going to be cardiovascularly appropriate and also healthy for you as you continue to build up your strength and prepare for your next step. Walking is always a great exercise. One, because it's low impact. Two, it's cardiovascular. And three, you can easily transition between walking, slow walking, fast walking, brace walking, all the way up to jogging and running. And you'll be able to flow between those two, and it'll all be an excellent and safe exercise for you. And a bigger component of all of this is getting adequate rest. I think a lot of times we fail to consider that rest is an important component of health and healing. And so staying up late and watching and binge watching your favorite show, while I'm guilty of it too, isn't always the best way for recovery, because the most recovery from day-to-day activities, day-to-day stressors, and long-term stress is to get rest at nighttime, because that's when our body does a lot of hard work in terms of rejuvenation, restoration, and preparation for the next day. So what I'd like to talk about is healing self-care. At our practice, we have taken traditional healthcare practice and healing practices that have traditionally been used as luxury or self-care items, and we have given them a clinical bent in terms of their importance in terms of fertility and also addressing complex health challenges. So we like to focus on physical activity. And during this time, we want to focus on gentle physical activity that is also blood type specific. Walking, pelvic floor exercises, lower abdominal strengthening, and yoga are really great examples, because again, they're not going to be super intense, but they also have the flexibility to, depending on where you are, ramp them up as you feel needed and as you're able. And perineal care. We're talking about that area between your vagina and your anus, where sometimes has been stretched or the pelvic floor has dropped or there have been stitches, and you want to make sure that area is clean. You want to make sure the perineum is also dry, and making sure that area is free from infection and irritation. So sometimes a sitz bath will be helpful, especially when you may be experiencing external hemorrhoids and internal hemorrhoids, and vaginal steaming as well, to again help close any of that extra places where there might be bloody discharge or any other extra flow from your vagina. That is part of the process, but you want to make sure you're tending to yourself in that area well too. And external cleansing, making sure you're wearing appropriate panties, appropriate underwear, appropriate undergarments that fit appropriately, that aren't too tight, because again, you want to make sure you are feeling secure, but you don't want anything that's too constricting and uncomfortable, so that you're not able to move accordingly. And again, trying to conceive again. I think a lot of times when we think about that reintroduction to your partner in terms of trying to conceive again, there's that constant question of like, what went wrong last time? What did I do wrong? What could we have done differently? Did I make any mistakes? What signs was I missing? And this is a great time to, again, do a male factor semen analysis, do a fertility workup to make sure there are not any things that you haven't taken into consideration that you wouldn't even be aware of. Maybe some genetic counseling and things that can shed some additional light on potential causes, and they're not always going to be, but potential causes for an infant loss. And I like to always talk about really focusing on the prenatal aspect of this, which is going to your appointments. Every prenatal appointment is going to be a difference whether you have been pregnant and you're on your 5th child, or whether this is your first baby, each appointment is going to be different because each pregnancy is different, and you're preparing your body for this pregnancy and not the historical collection of all your pregnancies. So going to your prenatal appointments will be important. Again, re-emphasizing the importance of exercise, nutrition, and food selection. And now is the time that if you have smoked or you were smoking, to really consider smoking cessation or stopping smoking, looking at your alcohol consumption, and making sure that when you are sleeping on your left-hand side, which is the important side for making sure you're getting adequate uterine circulation to your endometrial lining and for your baby. And so a lot of times, again, we are proponents of a whole person, holistic approach to your care and your wellness and your healing. So vaginal steaming and perineal steaming, pelvic cavity steaming is always beneficial. One, because it's non-invasive. We're really a proponents of not sticking anything in your vagina that's unnecessary, except for clean penises, sterile hands, covered with gloves, and medicated steam, because there's nothing invasive about medicated steam, but yet it provides a various different degrees of health properties and contribute to healthy vaginal flora, which also can set you up for having a healthy pregnancy. Calming and self-care modalities such as massage, nutrition counseling, whether you need a dietitian or a health and wellness coach, acupuncture, yoga, pelvic floor physical therapy are all services that we provide. And again, they are really helpful in terms of being able to fully restore yourself to your pre-pregnancy status and really helping you focus on connecting your mental health to your physical health. And so a lot of times, again, when we think about caring for your body after loss, we're looking at so many different things, but we're not making that connection with the mental and the physical. And I really like to, again, talk about and focus on those aspects of the physical health that we don't necessarily always take into consideration. One is breast health. When you're looking at breast health, make sure you're doing your self-breast exams. Make sure you know what your breasts feel like and that you know exactly what lumps and what bumps are physiologically normal for you versus what bumps and what lumps might be pathologic and might need extra attention. I think a lot of times we look at our bodies and we're just so comfortable with, oh, this is how it's always been, or this is not necessarily something I need to be concerned with. But at the same time, all of your body is a series of connections. So it's not just your uterus, it's not just your ovaries, it's not just your, fallopian tubes. Those are part of your reproductive system. And yes, those are very critical components when you're talking about pregnancy. But at the same time, that uterus and those ovaries and those fallopian tubes are connected to your digestive system, your cardiovascular system, your musculoskeletal system, your cerebral and your respiratory system, your brain and your back and your spine. They're all connected. So if they're all connected to the thing that is of utmost importance to you, then they're all connected to that one thing that you're really trying to keep your focus on. So it's really important to take into account making sure everything is in balance and not just the center focus of what you think is potentially problematic or that may be out of balance. And a lot of other times when we look at your one's physical health, you'll find that, yeah, my digestion has been off, or, I have been getting headaches, or, I don't really like this food, or I haven't really even been eating a lot, or I've been eating too much, or I've been gaining weight. And we don't really know the reasons behind those things, but we continue to kind of move on and kind of brush them off. And now's the perfect time to kind of reassess your overall health and wellness and not take things and ignore certain symptoms or take things in isolation, but really take time to fully look at your whole body, because your whole body belongs to you. And as your whole body belongs to you, we want to make sure that every aspect is in balance as you prepare for the next stage in your journey. Are there any questions?
We do have one question. Laurena, can you repeat about sleeping on the left side?
Surely. When we talk about, a lot of times I'm a left side sleeper because that's the side that's comfortable for me anyway. But some people, after surgical intervention or after loss, it's just not comfortable to sleep on your tummy or on your back, and sometimes side sleeping is the best thing. If you have to choose a side, choose the left-hand side, because one, that is the side that's going to provide the most efficient and effective blood flow to your uterus and to that and get the optimal uterine circulation. So even when you're pregnant or even after loss, the left-hand side for women is the best side for providing proper uterine circulation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most important first step when you're ready to start trying to conceive again?
I think the most important step is literally assessing your mental health and your readiness for trying to conceive. Or have you given yourself time to process or start the process of grieving, and really assessing where you are in that process. And once you know that you are mentally ready and feel you're mentally ready, is to, again, during that process, start preparing your preconception care. And your preconception care is pretty much some of the things that I detailed before, is making sure that your cycles have returned to normal. So now the important thing about getting pregnant is to know when you're ovulating. Contrary to popular belief, you can't get pregnant at any point in your cycle. There has to be an egg there. So if there's no egg, then you can't get pregnant, and really making sure that your partner has no male factor fertility issues, and making sure that your period has returned to normal. Are you getting a regular period? Have you gotten your period yet? And making sure you're ovulating. And then knowing, okay, if your period's regular, knowing when you ovulate, knowing the signs of ovulation, tracking your, with an ovulation prediction kit or a period tracker, knowing what your cervical mucus looks like, knowing your basal body temperature. Any combination of those things will help you determine, okay, now I'm ovulating. And sometimes you may have a period, but you haven't started ovulating yet. So again, just really tracking those, getting in touch with your body, and really tracking those aspects and features of your menstrual cycle.
Thank you. Thank you. Any thoughts on meditation?
Yes. A lot of people have the false conception that meditation that has to be this like super long, all day, go to a retreat, I have to be silent, and that's the only way meditation looks. I am not a person that can sit still for literally 5 minutes straight without my mind wandering, making lists of things that I should be doing at work, at home, projects that I didn't finish, what I didn't mention to a patient 3 days ago that I need to talk. I am not a person who can do that easily. I have a busy mind, whether I'm awake or asleep. And so meditation is actually one of the best things for me, because it forces me to focus my mind on one simple thing while I'm being still. And it does not quiet my mind, but it gives me focus. And something as simple as guided meditations for 5 minutes helps me feel refreshed and helps me renew, like almost like a reset in terms of, okay, all the little crazy stuff that's going on. And then when I focus and sit for, 3 minutes sometimes, it's like wiping the slate clean. And now it's like, okay, now you can go back and focus on a project. Meditation is also calming in terms of stress relief and decreasing cortisol. Cortisol is the hormone that kind of ramps up when we're stressed out, that fight or flight hormone. And when I did my capstone project in grad school, I did my capstone project on outcomes in Black women, why we are, always have lower birth outcomes, and our maternal mortality rates and morbidity rates are just always so low, even when we compare and match for socioeconomic status, geographic location, education, salary, all those parameters that equate to being well off or well-to-do. And even when we match for our Black women with our white counterparts, our Latina counterparts, and our Asian counterparts, we continuously and consistently do worse. And why is that? Because our cortisol is always high. We don't have a fight or flight kind of fluctuation where like, okay, this is a stressful moment. I'm about to give a presentation. That cortisol goes up, the presentation's over, it goes away. No, we are always in that heightened state of fight or flight, ready to defend, ready to go on the offensive because of being Black women in America. And so that also translates with having higher maternal mortality and morbidity, risk factors, and statistics. And so one of the things I found is that when you bring that cortisol down, even if it's for a moment, it yields advantages. And even if you can't sit for a half an hour, if you can sit for 3 minutes, 5 times a day and meditate for a minute every hour. And sometimes I try to use, depending on my schedule, I try to use the every 15-minute interval, whether it be 15 minutes, half past, quarter till, or on the hour, to just sit and find a minute to do my breathing exercises. And my breathing exercises are simply inhale for 4, hold it for 7, and exhale for 8. And that is a tried and true breathing exercise that has been clinically found to decrease the cortisol in your body and helping to like reset and bring that down. And so meditation doesn't have to look like chanting or something high level. It can be as simplistic as a minute of breathing exercises. And one thing I always said is meditation brings you to the present. I cannot guide my own meditation because, again, I'll start thinking about my shopping list. I'm thinking about, a whole bunch of things other than why I'm supposed to be, meditating in focus. So guided meditation works well for me. And there's plenty of guided meditation apps. You can go to the Fit On app, and there's like meditations for anxiety, meditations for strength, meditations for energy, meditations for anything. But the idea of any type of meditation is to focus your mind so it's not all over the place and to bring that cortisol level down. And sometimes I don't have time for a guided meditation. I have literally 60 seconds. And 60 seconds, you can get 5 cycles of 4, 7, 8 breathing in, and you automatically feel better. It's impossible for you not to, because you literally are taking time and being intentional about bringing your cortisol down, and you can feel the aftermath of relaxation and focus, and it doesn't even take that much time.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, there's a question in here about acupuncture. So someone's also living with uterine fibroids and heard that acupuncture can kind of help with that. What are your thoughts and any feedback around acupuncture and uterine fibroids and how it helps?
Well, I love this question because one of the things we work with especially is uterine fibroids and fertility concerns. So one of the first things I always ask is kind of like, between the time of diagnosis and what your symptoms are, because that will inform where your fibroids are and how we manage the forward progress. And sometimes fibroids may be outside the uterus, but they're not directly involved with the uterine cavity. So there's going to be no problem with implantation. So you won't necessarily have to have any kind of surgery. If the fibroids are in the uterine cavity that are affecting implantation or where a baby may grow, they are hijacking your uterine circulation. So it may be problematic in terms of growth of your baby, and also in terms of uterine circulation and your baby not getting the adequate nutrients he or she needs. So those are the things we'd like to talk about in terms of symptomatology, also looking at where the fibroids are, the size of the fibroids, and sometimes surgery will be necessary, but even then we look at different aspects and types of surgery, so we make sure that uterine scarring on the uterine lining doesn't affect implantation and your future fertility efforts. I think a lot of times when we look at acupuncture, definitely not, especially when you have something complex like fibroids, acupuncture alone is a start because that's going to deal with the energetic components, the blood flow components, the lymph components as well. But you also want to make sure you're working to shrink the size of those fibroids. That's where herbal therapy comes in, nutrition comes in, food selection comes in, and also physical activity. All fibroids are not created equal. Depending on the evolution of your fibroids, they could be soft, they could be hard, and the ones that are harder have been around longer, so they're going to be the most problematic. The ones that are smaller and soft are the easier ones to break down and dissolve as you make dietary and other lifestyle modifications. So yes, acupuncture and herbal therapy, dietary and lifestyle modification, it's going to be an overall lifestyle change. It's not going to be one or two things that are going to change things, especially depending on the evolution of your case. But it is important that you can get pregnant. A lot of people even get pregnant with the presence of fibroids, but it's important to make sure that you are attending to them so that one, they don't continue to grow, and two, you can continue to live optimally without necessarily having a surgical intervention.
Awesome. While we're waiting to see if there's any other questions, Laurena, can you tell us a little bit about the Eudaimonia Center and also put that in the chat in case folks want to look that up or follow you on social media?
Okay, I'm going to put the website in the chat. You can look up the center. It spells not the way that it sounds. The EU is the U sounds like a V. It's a Greek word. It's Ev. The DAI is like a soft the, and Monia is speaks for itself. So it's the Eudaimonia Center. Eudaimonia means human flourishing, and we really strive to create a healing presence and a healing experience with every interaction with us, whether it's virtually or in person, and no matter what modality you're experiencing, what service you're experiencing that day. So our team is an integrated reproductive medicine and women's health team. We say reproductive medicine because a lot of our cases are infertility, or cases are men and women having fertility challenges. And those fertility challenges may be to age, they may be to presence of uterine fibroids, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And we also see people who are, not necessarily trying to get pregnant, but they're having menstrual dysfunction, whether they're missing periods, irregular periods, bleeding too long, bleeding too heavy, birth control, trying to establish after hormonal balance after birth control, menopausal symptoms. And sometimes people just come because they want to experience our services outside of any particular fertility challenge or complex health challenge. And that's why we talk about when self-care meets fertility care, because again, we're using traditional modalities and modern conventional medicine as well, to really address the underlying component of one's health, wellness, and healing concerns. Oh, and there's a podcast. Let's see, the podcast is Women's Health, Wisdom, and Wine. And it's a weekly podcast, and our episodes drop every Wednesday. April is National Fertility Awareness Month. And so we'll be doing a lot of talks about, all range of fertility and repeat miscarriages and all the different aspects of fertility challenges. And this is specifically for passion. Passion, I saw in one of your comments that you are contemplating and dealing with the fear of getting pregnant again. And the best way to overcome that fear is to channel all of that fear about the what ifs and what could be and what might be. All of those things are possible because anything could happen. But taking those fears and that anxiety and turn them into concerns, turn them into effective action in terms of reconnecting with your body, understanding how your body responds to different stimuli, whether that be food, whether that be stress, whether that be lack of sleep, really nurturing your body and making sure you're getting to be the best version of yourself. Because I tell everyone that fertility is a manifestation of health. So if you are healthy, you are also fertile. If you're fertile, that's going to give you another opportunity to try to conceive again. And that, in essence, will help you in terms of establishing the basis of a good healthy mother-baby dyad. And I think, yes, there are a lot of things swirling on, and I can only imagine the concern and the fear and being afraid of getting pregnant again, because you don't want to have a repeat occurrence. And the best way to do is, again, take all that fear and channel it into preparation and your preconception care, and making sure that you're the best version of yourself as you prepare for pregnancy.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have been working with a wellness and fitness coach. She has more of a holistic approach. So everything you're saying resonates with me. I've worked really hard since my loss to get my body in the most optimal and functional health I can.
Yes.
I've lost over 50 pounds. Yes, plant-based is like the way to go.
That's a big deal for anybody. That's fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So working with her, I found her on Instagram now. Her name is Phyllis. She's goes by the name Fibroid Queen, and she is awesome. And her plan has really worked well for me. So that's why I was kind of asking. Some of the women that she works with have talked about acupuncture, but I've never really delved into it. But it's definitely something I wanted to try. I had a myomectomy to remove the larger fibroids because they were very problematic. They were in my womb when my son was trying to thrive and grow.
Yep.
So the larger ones have been removed, but there are small ones that are probably about the size of a small marble. And so I'm just concerned about those potentially growing. So I'm just trying
and
to
those are great because they are small, but they're so easy to get those dissolved because they are small, and making like some, I'd say, minor health challenges are going to help those disappear on their own, so they won't even be a part of your story anymore.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Okay, Laurena, you have any final words as you wrap up, and anything you want to leave with our attendees today?
Just an overall thank you. I really do appreciate you coming out and participating and good discussions. I really just overall, I'm glad to be a SAILS board member. There's so many aspects of stillborn and infant loss that I don't know about myself, but at the same time, I believe in Sadija and her mission and her vision, and really being an advocate for women who are unfortunately having to experience this loss and this time in their lives. And again, I believe part of the work that I do, that our team does, is to help bridge that gap between the loss and trying to conceive and pregnancy again. And I take that seriously. I take that role seriously, and I look forward to not seeing any of you again, but anytime that I do, and anytime you do need assistance, I look forward to drop by, say hi, and just come see us sometime.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. And we are so grateful to have Laurena on our board. Really quick before we go. So she's been on the board now for three years.
Yeah, I'm in my third year. Yes.
Third year. And so like one thing about me that I've learned, and I guess I've developed a skill, when I meet really, really good people, I like hold on to them forever. And so whether it's at work or it's in the community, I love to stay connected and build relationships. And Laurena, I don't know how long you guys have been following us or in our community. She was on the panel of our launch brunch when we first launched back in 2018, 19-ish. And so immediately I connected with her. She had an event at her center that I was a part of. And then I worked up the gall. I said, let me just see where she is, if she has the time. Because board service is a huge commitment, and not everybody has the time. And she's pretty busy, but we talked about it. She gave it some think over, and she joined us, and she's been with us ever since. She is a huge, huge support to move the mission forward. As you can see, a huge advocate for women's reproductive health and women's overall health, mental health, physical, spiritual health as well. So we are super excited to have Laurena on our team, and we are not letting her go.
And Sadija, you are, I mean, this isn't just anything. I opened my practice because I was sick of working for other people and them not catching a hold of my vision. And so working with you and under your leadership is easy. And you're a wonderful person to work with. And I just, again, I'm glad that people have an advocate, a leader who, as strong as you are, to continue to carry this torch and represent and advocate for all those who have unfortunately experienced loss or stillborn.
Thank you so much. Our next online Community Connects is next month, March the 31st at 7 p.m. The topic is Budgeting Made Easy. Our board treasurer, Crystal Allen, will be hosting, and they'll, with our special guest speaker, Xavier X of Finance Guy X. He will be presenting on Budgeting Made Easy, giving some tips. It's tax time and you're getting all your things together. So he will be there to answer any questions that you may have. Be sure to follow us. If you're not following us, follow us on all social media at Born Into Silence. You can go to our website as well. bornintosilence.org. So we do have several volunteer opportunities available. We are looking for a board secretary still. So if you or someone you know is interested, please reach out to us for that position. We're also looking for event planners and outreach communication as we prepare for our annual Survivor Summit, which is the last Saturday in August. This year it's August the 27th. We are looking for help planning that event as well. If there are no final questions, I want to thank you all again for joining us. If you ordered a calendar, the calendars went out yesterday, so you should have it hopefully by Friday, Saturday-ish, depending on USPS. We'll see how that goes, but they are in the mail. If you have not ordered it, please go to our website and order your calendar. Our goal is to sell 200 calendars this year. And thank you all for joining us. We hope to see y'all next month, March 31st, Budgeting Made Easy. Make sure you're on our mailing list and follow our social media for all the details. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.